Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Tony Dowson. I'm Senior Environmental Health Officer at the City Council. Environmental health officers cover a range of public health concerns we do noise control, so something in the region of 12,000 noise complaints a year, right through to housing, hoarders, rubbish, rats, and of course complaints about hazardous substances and things like asbestos. Our role is specifically around providing information to the community on how best to protect themselves, but we also do regulation work. Most of you may be familiar with the role of environmental health officers around food and hotels and things like that. But it's a very wide brief, but tonight we're just really going to limit it to talking about asbestos and mould. So I'll take them one at a time, and as Sarah suggested, I'm happy to take questions at any time, but specifically at the end if you want to wait till then. Right, starting with asbestos, we have probably in the last 4 years done a big catch-up in Christchurch to the point now where our level of knowledge, if not comfort, around asbestos has improved. Our organisation and integration with other authorities is far advanced in 4 years than I'd ever anticipated. And we're contributing now to new regulations that are being formed as we speak. Those regulations might even require people that have asbestos in their home to be on a register in the future, so it's worth knowing. It's also worth knowing that it's a fairly widespread mineral substance. It's in two main forms, but and that is the serpentine asbestos, which we see in quite a range of household products. And soft furnishings, hard furnishings, wall linings, and we also see the more hazardous forms of asbestos, if there is such thing as more hazardous, because as we know, it's not really a dose-dependent thing. You can actually be affected on your first exposure to it. Having said that, the more you work with it, the greater your chances of having an asbestos-related issue later in life goes up. So if you're an electrician, say, and you're regularly crawling under houses or in attics or putting in downlights, you might be exposed to higher levels of asbestos dust. And it is the dust that we're most concerned about. We have all types of asbestos in Christchurch, ranging from the blue chrysidolite, which was used in building products for a long time, since the 1930s up to about the 1990s. Any houses that were built will have asbestos in one form or another. It might be anything from linoleum tiles through to cladding. It can be the pole light that goes on your garage or under the eaves of your house. You can't necessarily know that it's there just by looking at it and going, I think that might be asbestos. The only true way to know, of course, is to get it tested, and that's very much what we're recommending. A few years back, we wouldn't have had the same resources in laboratories to get the testing done, but now they're springing up everywhere. If you are going to get testing done, it's recommended that you use an accredited laboratory for that. I've got a pamphlet that I'll hand out at the end on removal of asbestos for the homeowner, and in that is advice on how to go about it yourself. But as I've been discussing with some of my colleagues, we're really getting to a point now where we're getting slightly uncomfortable with people doing their own asbestos work just to save money or a few dollars. It is a job for the professionals, and we would prefer that you go to the Google or the Yellow Pages and find a removalist that can actually undertake the work. But having said that, we have people, because there is such a range of asbestos within households, and it's estimated 40,000 homes in the Christchurch area will have asbestos in one form or another, that you're going to come across it sooner or later, and you may want to, I don't know, put in a downlight, and so you're putting yourself right under the area where the dust will fall if you're using a hole saw or a drill, and it's in that more fibrous or dust, the dust falling on you may well expose you at that point. From that point of view, yes, you can wear a mask and you wear all the equipment, but why put yourself in that position in the first place when for $100 you can get a test from one of the reputable companies and at least know what you're dealing with. Asbestos has been around for as long as people have been around, but the study of disease related to asbestos goes right back to ancient times, and even the Greeks were discovering that people were getting terrible coughs, and I guess in those days they didn't have the same life expectancy where we see a 30-year latency period for, say, mesothelioma or some of those other asbestos-related diseases. But over time, the occupational thresholds have dropped, and we're now down to the knowledge that even a single fibre can get into your lungs. So with some of the types of asbestos, the small fibres bypass all of the defences of the body, the nasal hairs, the mucus and so forth, travel directly to your lungs and irritate the lungs, and it may form a cancer sooner or later, but often the disease, is a slowly progressive one, where little protein balls form on the end of each part of the asbestos particle, and eventually build up until a matrix or a mat is formed, and breathing is affected that way. So over the course of 30 years, it can gradually diminish your life. A very big concern, but as I said initially, it's really people who are working with it all the time that have the most to fear, because there is a lot of paranoia around about asbestos, and some forms, the pole light that we see on garages and so forth, if they're intact and in good condition, they don't represent a high degree of threat to anyone. Are there any questions at this stage on the general nature of asbestos?
I'm just wondering, is it a New Zealand and some country problem, or is it worldwide that asbestos is being used in housing and commercial buildings, residential and commercial buildings?
All right, the question is asbestos specifically a New Zealand issue? No, it's not. It has of recent times gained a lot of control and regulation in England. They are onto it, and the health and safety in England now is probably more advanced than we are. They do have registers for asbestos. The only ones that we currently have in New Zealand are around occupational exposure. So if you've been exposed to it, or if you actually have symptoms, medical symptoms, and you're being diagnosed with asbestosis or some other cancer, those are the main registers that we have in New Zealand. But we're moving soon, I think, to actually have a register for the substance itself and its locations. It's very widespread throughout the world. Big problem in Australia, where they've had asbestos mines, and you've heard of the Blue Sky mine. I think a lot of people are familiar with the Midnight Oil lyric, but it has been a big issue for the last 20, 30 years there anyway, with massive rates of death and morbidity amongst mine workers in Australia. And even for the environmental side of it, the townships around, not just the specific workers, but affecting the families and workers of some of these mining towns. And it was a lot of it was due to a fairly laissez-faire macho attitude to, I'll be right, I can smoke and I can do whatever I like and handle asbestos. I'm not going to be affected. But I think the attitudes have significantly changed in Australia. Likewise, the EPA have picked it up in America, and there's some very strong controls there in Europe too. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to hold this microphone here.
That's all right.
Question, but I've had an asbestos test done through Fletcher's. Okay. I had an asbestos test done by Fletcher's. And the tester chipped a piece off the wall and left it on the carpet. Now, I thought, well, what am I going to do about this, you know? Because at that time I didn't know I had asbestos, but it's been confirmed I have now through asbestos test. And I suspected it could be asbestos, but I just picked it up and I put it in the black rubbish bag. But now I don't know myself. I was going to ring the City Council about it, but I thought since I've come here and you're the Environmental Health Officer, I thought, well, Senior Environmental Health Officer, I thought that I don't know what to do with it, get rid of it. It's just a chip, a small chip that they've chipped off and left on the carpet. And I must say, when I asked the company, I arranged with the company for the test to be done, they said to the person, make sure they wear their mask. And I thought, oh, yeah. And they came and tested 16 areas in my house. They didn't check the wall linings, which I've got a big concern about. So I might have to get that done myself. But I just... At one stage, they were taking a sample close to me and they weren't wearing their mask. And I said, shouldn't you maybe wear your mask? And they put their mask on, you know. But I was just reiterating that as far as the macho image, because I get that sort of behaviour, because I see that regularly. And I always think to myself, well, I don't really want to be putting myself at risk if I can help it. But there's still this macho type image that, like you're talking about, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, and in fact, my whole comfort level, as I say, has shifted a bit. In the past, I was encouraged, and initially straight after the quakes, to facilitate people to do their own work as much as possible. But I've moved well away from that now, and I like to encourage people to get professionals in. We had a similar question earlier on today about that, where a chip was taken and they were concerned about the residue. A small quantum like that, I'd put it in a bag, put that bag in another bag and put it in the rubbish. Not a problem. Okay. Anything bigger in terms of, something the size of what you're holding there, piece of polite or something, yes, you should take that to Bromley Eco Centre and dispose of it there. But again, it should be in a bag, which is in another bag, and preferably a polythene one, and twist and seal the neck and either tie it up or use rubber bands, label it as asbestos and take it to Bromley. It sounds like a bit of overkill, but in actual fact, the asbestos regulations apply to any contractor that's doing work, and they're specifically required to treat asbestos in that manner, and I don't see any